Welcome to BBC World News, broadcasting to our viewers on public TV in the US and around the globe. I'm Peter Dobby. Our top stories. Fresh questions about one of the men accused of killing a soldier in London. Did British intelligence try to recruit him? Police at a London airport board a Pakistani passenger plane and arrest two men on suspicion of putting the aircraft in danger. The Nigerian army says it's destroyed a number of extensive and well-equipped camps used by the Boko Haram rebels. And two wheels good, four wheels bad, the new form of motorsport causing a storm in Saudi Arabia. Welcome to the programme. Our top story now, after the events of Wednesday on a street in London that left a British soldier horribly murdered, the UK security services were facing questions about what they knew about the two suspects. Now there are fresh questions to be answered about their relationship with one of the men. A close friend of Michael Adebolajo, he's one of the suspects in the murder, has told the BBC that the security services had previously tried to recruit, his word, not ours, the arrested man. We haven't been able to confirm the claims of the friend. He's called Abu Nusabai. He was talking to Newsnight's Richard Watson.
His wording was, Ak means brother, they're bugging me, like they just keep, they won't leave me alone, basically. He mentioned that initially they wanted to ask him whether he knew certain individuals, basically. That was the initial issue. But after him saying that he didn't know these individuals and so forth, what he said is they asked him whether he'll be interested in working for them. He was explicit in that, he refused to work for them, but he did confirm that he didn't know the individuals that they asked him whether he knew.
BBC's Sarah Campbell also following that developing story. What else do we know?
Well, this was an interview which was broadcast on the BBC's Newsnight programme, and what it gives us potentially, and what we have to say from the absolute outset, is this is one interview. The BBC cannot independently verify these claims, but this is a 31-year-old Abu Nusayba who says he first met Michael Adelabajo in Romford in 2002. They became childhood friends, and subsequently both of them converted to Islam. And there are two real elements of this interview which I think are of particular interest. The first is that he claims that in a conversation with him about 6 months ago, he claimed that he'd been, and used the word, harassed by the security services, that they had approached his house, that they knocked on the door, and they'd basically tried to recruit him. And Mr. Abu Nusayba said that, that at no time did he work with the security services, that he rejected any thought of working with them. But that is an interesting point. Again, we can't verify those claims. On the counter side, you could say, well, it's perhaps not a ridiculous suggestion for security services if they're trying to infiltrate groups. Would they be approaching men like this? Potentially. We do know that there has been some talk that he was on their radar. The second point, I think, that comes through the interview that's interesting is something which potentially, if it's true, and I stress again, if it's true, gives us some sort of maybe motivation into what happened. And basically this is that Abu Nusayba says that his personality seemed to have changed after a trip to Kenya. He returned from Kenya about 6 months ago, and during that trip to Kenya, Michael Adebolajo claims that he was arrested, that he was beaten during this trip to Kenya, and what his friend says is that when he spoke about this afterwards, he said that he was much less talkative than he had been. He seemed a different person, that he didn't seem to have his bubbly personality. So again, some sort of insight into the motivations of this man.
How should we interpret what, I guess here is the level of contact with this individual?
Between the two of them, well, he described himself as a close friend, as a childhood friend, back in 2002. What wasn't clear from the interview was the level of contact between sort of 2002, 2003, and then sort of 6 months ago. So what we don't know is how much interaction there was between those years, so which would obviously be interesting, certainly, to know. What we should point out, and what has, again, made this rather more sort of interesting this evening is that this was a pre-recorded broadcast with the Newsnight programme at the BBC New Broadcasting House in the centre of London, and immediately after that pre-record had finished, counter-terrorism officers came to the building and they arrested Abu Nusayba, and he is now, we understand, in custody in South London, and 2 properties linked to him have got search warrants.
Very much a live investigation.
Absolutely.
Following the events of Wednesday, so from a legal point of view we've got to be careful, but how much credence do we give these claims?
How much credence? That is a difficult question, and I can only stress again that this is one interview. This is a man who we can't independently verify those claims. This is one interview, and so really I think that the credibility is one of those things which we will know at some point in the future. But certainly at the moment, on the face of it, it seems certainly like interesting points that he's making, and whether they'll prove to be any more credible than that, we'll have to just wait and see.
BBC reporter Sarah Campbell there. Well, the family of drummer Lee Rigby, the soldier killed in Woolwich on Wednesday, have said they're